I think we have to come to two conclusions, which is one, current structures don't work, and disclosure cannot simply just be integrated into the current structures of power that exist. It's not going to work. So things are going to have to change.
Welcome back. I'm here again with Persephone Mae Holloway. How are you doing?
Hello. Doing good.
Okay. I said that you're going to be giving us a detailed timeline with exact dates.
Yeah,
and,
exact dates and moments. And here we go. No, I don't.
No, we don't. But
which is good because I don't know. But basically, so what I do know is all indications point to disclosure will happen by the end of next year. That's pretty much what I've been told. I was told that there are different factors at play. So like anything, it's going to determine what happens, and it depends on who's doing the disclosing. And even from a non-NHI perspective here, just talking even with my co-host of my podcast, it matters who releases this because they have all the power to frame it. And so from there, that'll change the steps after that and what happens. So, is the government going to pass the UAPDA? Because by the time you hear this, you'll know, but we don't know at this point. If they don't pass it, well, okay, now it's going to fall on academia. They're going to be the ones doing it. Like someone else is going to step in where they're
I hope it's not academia, because they'll be debating and like,
yeah, it'll be like 5 years, 5 years until we know anything.
It'll be like 30 years.
Yeah.
I mean, academia needs to be involved, but you need people who are doers, right? You need people who are used to delivering something on a human timeline as opposed to like endlessly debating the point and counterpoint and analysis paralysis. You need people who just pull triggers, right? And so I hope that's not plan B, because that's a scary plan B. Because the other thing about academia is that they've successfully allowed this problem to go unaddressed for 80 years.
Yeah.
Didn't challenge it, didn't ask questions. Those who knew kept quiet, demonized other people. I think the world of Dr. Gary Nolan, but no man is an island.
Yeah.
And you need a lot more firepower, particularly in that environment, because look what happened to John Mack at Harvard, right? Where they investigated him and did all sorts of nasty things, and because people are just afraid, right? Imagine if you're a history professor and you study Cold War history.
Okay.
Everything that you have taught, everything that you know is not true, or elements of it. Like you're missing a key part of the narrative, the whole Roswell piece.
Yep. Anything around Atomic Energy Commission, all the stuff that we're questioning now, it's like all that history will completely change. I think that could be exciting though, because it's an opportunity to learn new things, but it's also
it could be
bad.
But if your reputation was based on the accuracy of all the books that you've written and the scholarship that you've done, there's an incentive for the establishment to push back, because in academia, it's very narrowly specialized and your reputation is all you have. Look at the field of archaeology. Yeah. There is an official narrative. And if this kind of we are not alone, and let's say you get the strong form of disclosure. And by strong form, I mean the government provides you with, or we're provided with as much information that we can know without jeopardizing U.S. national security.
Right, of course, always.
As opposed to like weak form disclosure, which would be like, hey, we're not alone. Stop asking us questions, because that's all you're going to get. Yeah. Imagine if it's like the strong form, right? Then you will have entire fields that are going to be wrong. And that is very difficult to admit for someone whose entire career is bundled up in that one dissertation they wrote 50 years ago that was the Egyptian Middle Kingdom did this and that. And, you're going to have to change some of these perspectives, even evolutionary biologists.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to radically shift some of those theories. Physicists.
Oh, physicists. Well, all of physics is going to be turned upside down either way, because I think we've all come to the conclusion that there's a form of physics that we haven't been using and don't understand yet that is out there.
When the United States and China clash, the world will never be the same, especially when forces beyond reality threaten to intervene. What if the United States went to war with the People's Republic of China? How would these rivals fight for supremacy on land, sea, air, and across the stochastic streams of time? What wonder weapons would be unleashed? What horrors would emerge from the irradiated sludge of the South China Sea? What heroes would rise and forever change the course of history? Tread into the deepest and darkest dimensions of the multiverse, gaze through a kaleidoscope of fractured realities, and bear witness to the disturbing visions of World War III from today's greatest minds in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Weird World War, China. Available now from Baen Books at baen.com.
My only point is it can't just fall on academics, because nothing will get done, because they have no incentive. I mean, there's, like I said, there's a select few that are leading the charge, like Dr. Gary Nolan and Dr. Peter Scoffish, and a lot of folks like that who are deep thinkers on this stuff. But in order to be successful in many professions nowadays, you can't be a maverick. You kind of have to toe the party line. So I think if there is a release, it's going to have to be, and it's not sanctioned by the government, it's going to have to be people who have credentials but are on the fringes of some of this, and they're going to get attacked. It's not going to be pretty unless they have help from outside of our civilization. That'll make it really easy.
Well, it would be really easy, but I don't think that's the way that it's usually done from all impressions I get. That wouldn't be the ideal situation for anybody. So ideally, government, you will work with everyone and it will be an effort and a rollout, which, you ask certain people in these fields and that's what they believe is happening. They think that this is all part of the plan, that it's definitely happening. I know, Yeah, no, it's like, I don't know what side I fall on. I'm not sure. And I think that that's something that could also shift from day to day, just depending, because the people who have been hiding this will continue to try to. It's their last desperate gasp to be like, I want to hide this again. So like they're going to grasp at every chance they can to make it go away.
It's very powerful to control a secret, right?
Well,
you feel very powerful. You're the only person who knows. And even without money, there's power in that. And but I mean, just to think, we've gone 80 years, we could have had access to potentially groundbreaking technology that could have, look, anybody who lost someone in the Iraq War, I have friends who we lost there. And if the government says, we wanted to avoid panic. And we had some of this energy technology that could have obviated the fossil fuel industry. Look, I'll be frank. I'll be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What the actual fuck? People died to support an energy infrastructure that we didn't necessarily need to have. The fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Right. So I'm not saying that's what the case is. For all we know, we have all this technology. We haven't been able to back engineer it. We have no clue. We have no clue where these people come from. Right. And that's a tough message to deliver if you're a president. Like, we know that we're not alone. Well, where are they from? We don't know. Are they from other worlds? We don't know. Why are they here? We don't know. How long have they been here? We don't know. Right? Like, what are their intentions? We don't know. So that could be a possibility that we just don't. And there's a piece.
It could be a possibility, or they might choose to put it that way because that's easier than revealing a lot of the other stuff. So who knows? I don't know how they would decide to frame it. I think in general, just we, the world, know that this isn't working the way it currently is. Like, most of us are trapped in this corporate 9-to-5 lifestyle the way we are right now. There could be technology in this that would be life-changing, like you're saying. And in general, I think no matter, what side of the ocean or political viewpoint you're on, I think you can agree that changes need to be made with this. And not just for the planet, but the well-being of humans and humanity as a whole. Like, it's unfair that this has been kept from us, if so. And you can't expect people to fly with clipped wings. That's just not how that works. And the power disparity that's happening is no longer acceptable. So if there is something that needs to come out, then it should, because it needs to change.
Which is scary, though, because if we do not have controlled disclosure, which kind of going through this, right, you're going to have disclosure no matter what. You could have chaotic disclosure. And the longer that governments wait to reveal this stuff, the less credible. I mean, our government, for instance, is losing credibility every single day.
To advertise on Through a Glass Darkly, email throughaglassdarkly@gmail.com.
Just another thing where they just lose more credibility and more credibility and more credibility. And if you have catastrophic disclosure, you have mimetic viruses, things like that, right? Where somebody says that, and look, I'm making this up on the spot, right? But a mimetic virus would be when doctors would go in to a indigenous community in Southeast Asia and render people smallpox vaccines or shots. And then there'd be a mimetic virus that's saying they poison these people. We need to cut off the arm in order to prevent them from being possessed by demons, right? I'm just making this up. But you could imagine the same sort of thing where experiencers could be at risk, right? Where anybody associated with these non-human intelligences are demon possessed, or again, I don't believe this.
No, I know.
But
it is a fear. Yeah.
People create these mimetic viruses and they start to believe them and start to engage in behavior that's counterproductive, which is why you need to do this soon. You need to do it in an organized fashion, and you need to involve a greater expansion or a greater community in the public so that you can begin to prepare for these sort of things. I mean, here's an example. Let's say that we have craft that we gifted. When I said gifted. Steve Bassett, it's not necessarily gifted because but let's say that Lockheed Martin, for instance, had a number of craft over the years, made some progress, made some money, but that was by definition anti-competitive behavior where the government favored one company or another. So there's tons of companies that went out of business over that time that would have a legal claim on some of that technology because it was not a fair process.
Right.
That said, not only do you have to solve that problem, but you need to get more people working on that problem without ceding some of the more classified aspects that could help our peer adversaries. And again, I'm thinking in terms of not like a one world Earth, right? Which in the long run, we should be thinking that way.
Yes.
But in the interim, there's going to be these dislocations and these disruptions that you have to carefully think through.
Right.
So if you want more brain power on this thing, then you're going to have to kind of take these craft that Lockheed Martin may or may not have made much progress in the last 80 years, put it in some sort of trusteeship, right? Some quasi-governmental entity, and then bid that out to scrappier organizations that might be able to make headway a lot faster on some of this technology. Now, granted, there could be a scenario where the NHI just come in and show us, right?
Right.
I don't know.
That would be ideal. That would be great. Like, honestly, like humans and NHI working together would be awesome, but also they might want us to do it ourselves. I could see them. I actually,
100%.
So again, this is not from my entity. I'm going to say this right now. I don't know this, but based on argumentative conversations that he and I have had, one of the things that he got really upset about, and he was like, this is the way that things have been done for centuries when contacting a new civilization, like you don't understand. And contact is one of the most nuanced and delicate things in the universe. And
Absolutely.
I was like, okay. And it is.
100%.
And I was mad at him at the time, but I get it now. And I think we have to come to two conclusions, which is one, current structures don't work. And disclosure cannot simply just be integrated into the current structures of power that exist. It's not going to work. So things are going to have to change. So we both have to accept things are going to change. And though that disclosure needs to happen, it's like both things need to come together for this.
Well, and that's one of the major reasons disclosure hasn't happened. So at the Soul, and I talked about this on my live stream. I'll just say it really quickly. Dr. Hal Puthoff, talked about an event in 2004 where they all sat down, number of academics, and were given a variety of different sectors of the world economy and government, religious institutions, different industries, and had to go through each of these items and rank from -9 to +9 in terms of negative or positive impact and magnitude of impact with disclosure. And it was, imagine if the United States, Russia, and China had recovered some of these craft, how would disclosure to the general global populace impact a number of these areas? So each of these groups went through this exercise, and they all came up slightly negative. And the reason that they came up slightly negative, according to Dr. Putoff, is that there were so many implications to disclosure that it was like playing whack-a-mole. And he didn't use that terminology. I'm using that terminology, my own terminology. And you couldn't address all of these problems and the second and third order impacts of these problems fast enough for there not to be some form of potentially catastrophic disruption somewhere in human society. So I think that's changed a little bit, but I can kind of understand some of that mindset. But anyway.
Right. Well, of course. I mean, and then just even take one sector of that. If you just take the religious sector, let's say everything else is fine, but the religious sector goes into complete panic because you have fundamentalists who think they're all demons. I mean, not all fundamentalists, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a group that think they're all demons. The Catholics are fine with it. I know my mom is super Catholic. She's fine with it, by the way, guys. She's like, yep, have them come have dinner at my house as long as they call first. It's fine, you know.
I'm actually interviewing a gentleman, Dr. Paul Thigpen.
Okay, nice.
PhD, Catholic theology. And anyway, that reinforces your point. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but it's just like, you know, so some people will be fine with it. Some people won't, but like structures may fall and change and shift. Because I had this conversation with my mom because when this all was first happening and I was starting to get contact and I didn't know what was going on. Like, my mom is aware, by the way. I use a pseudonym just to protect members of my family who don't care about this and don't want to be involved. But my mom knows. She's fully invested and aware. And I'm like, hey, what if I brought an alien home to meet you one day? And she's like, yeah, it's cool. But we had this conversation. I was like, well, what if it's something huge that like you didn't even expect? Like, what if we find out that Jesus was an alien? Or what if we find out that man was created by them? What if we were seeded here? What if it's a seed planet, you know? And she was just very much like, oh, well, you know, we're all God's creatures and it may have just happened a slightly different way, but it's fine. You know, my mom's awesome. She was a nurse, so she's just, nothing phases her, you know, but not everybody's going to view it that way. And for some people that could be devastating. And so that's why it's so important. And for me, a big aspect of disclosure needs to be the mental health of people, because I think most of the other sectors are going to be okay. But mental health, well, maybe you don't think so. Okay, I don't know. You know more than me in this.
I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example. I just made this up on the spot. Okay, let's say we get a strong form disclosure, which is
tell us as much as they know. Yeah,
tell us as much as they know, and we start having cooperative arrangements with NHIs broadly across the entire world. Okay, how attractive do you think it would be for young people to go off and explore new worlds with NHIs? How attractive would that be?
Bye.
Let's say the population from 18 to 35. What percentage of the global population do you think would want to take
Probably like 100%. Because I've had this conversation with people who are less involved with this and they're like, oh man, I want to go off and see other worlds. Yeah, they would leave.
Okay. So what happens to the people who are left, who are aging and going into retirement?
Yeah, who's going to help them? Yeah.
You'd have a collapse. You have a societal collapse where people just age out and die, and they die early because you'd have a financial collapse because there wouldn't be enough young people to fill those jobs. But again, it's just one tiny thing.
But here's my only comeback. I don't think that's going to happen. And here's why, because of the NHI side. If what I've been told is true, if it's true, big if it's true, they've done this before. So they've probably seen that happen before, and they don't want that either. At least the ones who want humanity to succeed, they're not going to let them do that to themselves, I would think. I think they would probably only allow a certain number to leave. I'll bet if there's open contact like that. If there's open contact, I wouldn't be surprised if there was some sort of system put into place, like you have to apply to go. Good luck if you get it.
Well,
that's what I think.
So let me take it one step further.
Okay. I'm ready. Let's go. I'm ready.
Are they going to select on intelligence?
I wouldn't think so. I would think that consciousness has more to do with it than intelligence.
Okay, let's take that. Let's say consciousness is the most important thing.
Sure. Something like that.
And they select for consciousness at a time when the globe needs it more than ever. So you take the most capable humans, right? Same thing. It's like you have a brain drain. Now, granted, if NHIs are much more developed than us, they would have already thought through all these things.
Well, they might lend us part of their population. Like, okay, for every young person that we take from you, we'll
let's play that out.
Help.
Let's play that out. Again, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be mean.
No, I'm just trying to.
But let's think through this. Let's say that. Again, I have no idea if Greys exist or not, but let's just use the standard Grey.
Sure. Okay.
Let's say the standard Grey's IQ is 230. Oof. Okay?
Yeah.
Let's say you put them widely throughout the population, right? Within a generation or two, they're going to have 90% of the global wealth. Okay? Just by having that advantage, right? Of being much smarter, right? They're going to be able to think faster. They're going to dominate academic institutions. They're going to, if you live in a meritocratic society.
But that's what I'm saying. That would have to change because it couldn't. Because also we assume that these entities probably come from post-scarcity. Out in the universe, there is countless asteroids with,
right.
There are planets that rain rubies. Like, I'm just saying, like.
Fair enough.
So they don't need our money. So if they come here, unless they are of the ones aforementioned, of the, misaligned ones who are like, yeah, money, I can see them not needing that and being like, I don't need or want that. And I'm just doing my function. Thanks. Like, like you're all good. Like you keep doing your human thing. By the way, here's how to live in a post-scarcity society if you're interested. If you decide you want to move on, I don't know. That's what I hope. That's what I'm hoping for. This is all my hope.
I'm less worried about the NHIs. I'm more worried. You've been around situations where there's been somebody who's extremely competent and they're around people who are not competent.
That's true.
And you know what happens to the extremely competent person and what the dynamics like. And
it's awful.
So,
yeah.
Again, I'm not trying to just see the negative side in this because I see a tremendous positive, but there will be significant dislocation over a short period of time. Let's say telepathy. That's another.
Yeah. If that starts to get woken up in people, that's going to be chaos for a bit.
Yeah. Imagine two friends and you find out that this friend is sleeping with your wife.
Oh,
right?
Boy.
Like, yeah. I mean, there's going to be there'll be a reconciliation in a bad way. And, and frankly, a lot of the leaders that we have are sociopaths. And the things that they've done are going to be revealed. So you're going to have, even at the top, you're going to have huge amounts of turnover and disruption. Now, granted, we've had this in our own history, right?
I was about to say the fall of the Berlin Wall. Like we've had situations where things have collapsed and then had to be replaced. How did that go? Still questioning it now.
Actually, better than you. Actually, that's an example of something that went well, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Right? You remember the Ukrainians used to have nuclear weapons.
Yes.
Can you imagine if there was that kind of... So I'm talking more about when Cortez arrived. And
true. But what side of that what are we assuming the NHI or Cortez in that scenario? Is that what we're assuming?
Probably not as bad, but same thing though, right? Which is why, to your point, I think you said earlier that if they exist and if this happens, it's unlikely that they're just going to give us everything, give us all the goods and show us how it worked, because that's effectively what colonialism was. And we all know how well that
went. Yeah.
The world.
I think they're going to make us figure it out for ourselves. And I think some of us had this conversation that there's a high chance that after disclosure, they might take a step back and let us figure things out for a bit before they make their presence known. I would suspect that. I also don't think we're going to have Greys wandering around the populace. I think, my personal opinion, again, personal opinion, not for my entity, need to say that. I think that they are going to introduce human humanoid or human-looking entities first to integrate with us, because that's easier. Like, yeah, we're not from here, but we'll help you, because that's way easier to accept. And if you're somebody who's like, Uncle Bob sitting in the back waiting with your shotgun to kill them aliens, and a human walks in, are you going to still be able to do that now? I think it'll make things a lot smoother transitionally. So if I were them, that's what I would do. I would not send in the insectoids. The minute they come in, it's all over. No, I'm kidding. It's just like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, we're going to start with mantis beings. Oh, no, let's not,
I would actually do a mixture of both.
You think both?
But not like... You would have to have some human looking as part of it. But I think if you just introduced human looking, you have the mnemonic virus issue.
Oh, it's a psyop. It's a psyop. They're not real.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I wasn't even thinking that, but you're right. Like it's a psyop. They're not real, or they're trying to infiltrate. So that's why they're looking like us.
Pod people. Yeah, no.
Yeah. So I think you kind of need to...
Maybe humanoids and grays, because everybody's seen the grays. They've been seeding it into the culture forever. So, like, I think we're ready to see grays.
Now, more exotic looking. Yeah, you're probably right.
Once the bug people come, it's all over. It's just like,
or you might have something that's, it might be a 4-dimensional physical being that you can't even
fathom.
I don't know. I'm just babbling, but. But it's not easy, right? You have to think about like what's gonna be the reaction. So there's also a way that a competent social scientist would do this would be that they would have lots of surveys, and they would try to. But then even then, you're gonna have Bubba and his boys, which are like,
just let's skew the survey results, like whatever.
Right. So it's not simple. And it's going to be disruptive. I think what we can control is minimizing the level of disruption.
Yes.
Because, the thing that you kind of spoke about earlier is that this is going to be something that is historic. I want to say it's never happened in human history, but it probably has. We just have forgotten. But once the genie's out of the bottle, depending on how the population reacts. I mean, we saw how the population reacted in 1933 with War of the Worlds broadcast.
Oh yeah,
right. They freaked out. I think I subsequently heard that it wasn't as big of a freak out as it's been sold as.
Yeah, it was more like one area really freaked out. But
yeah. So, you never know. People are behaving.
Yes.
I mean, look.
I trust that people are better than
I don't remember the year of COVID. I don't know.
I mean,
if that was a trial run,
I don't know though. But I saw a lot. Like there was a lot of bad during COVID, and a lot of people had breakdowns and are still recovering from it. But I know, I watched a lot of people pick up new abilities and habits and things that were for the better. Like new music was created. We had to find new systems around how to behave, because it's like, well, we can't meet in person, so all right, let's start using Zoom, or Discord exploded because it was the only way you could hang out. Like,
just getting rid of commutes, just getting rid of punishing meaningless commutes.
Yeah.
Right. Like I got to see more of my youngest son than I did my other 3 older children in that year.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't in a car 20 hours a week, just waiting to get somewhere. So there were definitely good things.
Yeah, and everyone learned how to make bread at least once during COVID. Everyone at least once. Let's just say humans are highly adaptable, and people forget that. And I have faith in the general populace and of the world. Like, take Americans out of it. Just forget America. Look at the whole world. If you look at the world as a whole, I think more of us are adaptable and flexible than not, because we keep hitting periods in human history that are just god awful. and then we have to break our way through into the next thing. So I think we can do it. I think it's going to be okay. Yes, mitigate it as best you can. Yes, please don't break national security secrets. We're not asking for that. We don't want that. I don't need to see the exact method of how you capture this. I know there are people listening who would be able to understand it and want to know that. Great. More power to you. You go find a way to find it out. But I don't need that. I just need to know that, hey, we're not alone. I mean, I already know, but I need the rest of the world to know. Like, that's all I need, you know? Like,
well, it would also help, like a positive aspect of it, though, would also put a damper on the current tensions, right? It might not necessarily end them, but it would at least contextualize where we stand with each other and where we stand with what's outside of beyond our atmosphere, right?
Right, because if you have something outside of yourselves, you're forced to look inward. You're forced to be like, well, who are we? Who are we as humanity? What is humanity as a whole? Like, how do we work together? How do we go forward? Because now we're not just individual nations and individual countries. Now we're one group of people, like dealing with other groups of people from out there who, by the way, have probably figured all this out a long time ago. I don't know if they're going to be that nice and tell us everything, but maybe they will, you know? My entity seems to be helpful.
That might be a mercy that they're not telling us everything in the sense that
like,
don't
do what we did. Don't do what we did. Do you want to know about the great genocide of the Z45? Because I can tell you about the great genocide. Yeah, you don't want to do that, you know. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just very optimistic, and I have to stay optimistic. But I think disclosure is coming either way, and I hope that it comes in a way that is more beneficial than not. And I hope that someone listening or somewhere out there is putting plans in place. Like, I'm sure that's partially what Soul was about, was plans in place and thinking, you know, the greatest minds thinking together, like, how can we do this? You know, and how can we do this safely for people? Because that's the most important thing. But it has to happen. So, you know, just figure it out, I guess. I don't know.
So what impression have you gotten from this entity on how these things generally tend to roll out?
He has not told me, which is, again, probably a blessing, because I have a feeling might not always go well. But the other impression, though, I will say, I have seen multiple entities working together, right? And they're different species. So those guys had to have figured it out, right? Because they're there and they're
if they're a different together. That's if they're a different species.
Yeah, well,
and not multiple expressions of the same species, right?
Fair. It's fair. We don't know. But I'm just saying, like, it seems that these people, and I've watched my entity argue with this mantid being. So I know that they don't necessarily see eye to eye, but they're still working together and they still get along just like people would. So if they figured it out, we could figure it out. You can't have reached a certain point of science and evolution without figuring out how to work together, because otherwise the whole society collapses. It just doesn't work. So if this technology is real, which it seems it is, and has the capabilities that we've seen, which is insane, they've had to have done something right. Somebody somewhere did something right to get that there. So I'm not saying we should trust all of them blindly, but the ones that at least that are trying to help us, I think they know what they're doing. I don't know. And yeah, every indication seems that they've done this before, and there's a method and there's a system, and it's, like he said, incredibly delicate, nuanced, whatever, but it's a method. So
now here's some wild cards.
Sure.
What if Russia or China decide to start disclosure first?
That'd be wild and not good for the U.S. You better hope that doesn't happen, just for the sake of history right now.
So, national security state, intelligence community, do you hear that? Could you just imagine if China came out and became the darling of the planet for their openness and honesty? Yeah.
And then everybody should be just like China now. Do you want that to happen? Like,
do you want that? Do you want that? Because that's what you're going to get. That's what you're going to get.
Heaven forbid.
All right. We had a very strange incident that happened. There's a reason that Persephone is in almost black right now. So,
meeting of
do you want to just tell the audience, because it happened on your end? So, like, What specifically happened?
So I'm sitting there and all of a sudden my power goes on, off, on, off, on, off. It just stayed off. And there was a flash outside too, which was weird.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I didn't tell you that. I just like that happened. But it was like an orange flash. So I thought maybe it was like Transformers are usually blue, aren't they?
I don't know. An orange. I mean, there's the phenomenon of orange orbs, right?
Well, I see orange orbs with my entity a lot. But anyway, point is the power just went out and we tried to cycle the power. Did not work. And I reported it to my power company or whatever. But after I came back upstairs, right before I called back, or as I was on with you, I just got like a really bad feeling, like just like a really bad feeling. I don't know. Anyway, I'm good on my end because I got my own protections for that. Like I'm not worried about that, but it was weird. It's definitely a weird feeling. It felt like an intimidation tactic because we were sitting there you and I were talking before we were recording of like potentials, but like if it was the government, it's a really odd, it's only me, by the way. It's just my house. It's not the block. It's literally just me.
Yeah. So that's what's weird about it. Usually it's going to be a block where you lose all the, distinct power grid.
Not for me though. My house just has randomly lost power in the past, and it is random. And it's like there's not like it is raining, so it could be the rain. Like if I have
to, it's possible.
So we're gonna go with it could have a prosaic explanation, but it's weird. It was weird timing anyway.
Oh yeah, we were talking about how wonderful China would be if they disclosed first, and how it would make the U.S. look extremely bad.
Mm-hmm.
And then
that happened.
You just
boom.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But this feeling that you had, though, say more about it.
Yeah. So when I get in general, like my way of telling if something is good or bad, again, energy wise, is I get a physical tell if it's something bad. I'm not actually going to say what that is because I don't want anybody to be able to manipulate it. But it's if you want to figure out how to do it yourself, if you're like a naturally intuitive person, I would say think of somebody that you really feel like you were hurt by, or you really dislike, or you think you personally feel is evil, but somebody that you have.
I got two people I can put on the list. Right.
Okay,
yeah,
but someone that you know, not like a figurehead, like not someone on TV. Like it has to be somebody that you interacted with.
Oh no. Yeah, I have two people.
Think about where on your body it feels bad. Because it's a really good, actually, my entity taught me this. It's a really good training method because humans are a more physical being, right? So you think about where it sits in your body and pay attention if somebody gives you that feeling. Even if they're saying the nicest, kindest things and they seem like the sweetest person in the world, if you have that same feeling in your body that you get with that person that you consider bad, pay attention to that. Like, don't ignore your gut. Never ignore your intuition. So anyway, so I get a physical tell when I get bad energy, bad vibes, whatever you want to say. So I definitely had that. And I was like, I just don't like that. I don't like whatever that feeling was that I just had. Like, I don't feel it now, but it was weird. It was definitely weird.
And did it come from your end, or was it anything on my end? Anything like that?
No, it wasn't on your end. You're good. Don't worry. You're safe. It was on my end. Okay. So I was just, oh, God, no. You're fine.
I love how you're so confident that I'm fine. That, I'm fine on my end.
Again, I'm going to go with the natural psychic remote viewing shit stuff that I've been able to do in the past. I don't get any bad feelings from where you are right now. So I think you're fine. It's weird because the last 2 podcast interviews ago, someone was like, can you sense if there's anything weird? And I was like, you're literally fine. So this is now twice I've had this conversation with someone like, no, you feel fine.
I personally think this place it feels like a sanctuary for me.
Yeah. Well, normally my place too. That's why that was so spooky. It was like the lights went out and then something real bad kind of came in for a minute there. And I was like, yo, what? Because that doesn't normally happen. Like my house is always very safe for me, So it definitely felt like, to me, like an intimidation tactic. It was just weird.
All right. Well, what do you think they were trying to, whatever it was trying to intimidate you from doing?
Potentially not to keep talking like I'm talking, because my interviews and my conversation has drastically shifted, I'd say even within the last week, from how they used to be, because I didn't used to fully understand everything that was going on with my contact and stuff. And now that I'm sort of more aware of what I'm trying to do here, my goals with exopolitics and stuff. Like, I'm getting more vocal, right? And I'm getting more involved and I'm talking to more people. So the more you put yourself out there, the more you get things back, I guess. Yeah, that's my guess. If I had to just guess off the top of my head, that would be my guess, because there's no other reason for that.
Yeah, the more attention you get, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually if you're right over target, that's where you take the most flack, right?
Yep. As they say.
All right, so how do you think this thing's going to unfold?
Jeez. I don't know. Like, I hope that it will unfold with some measure of plans, either NHI or human, that is in a way that humanity takes the least collateral damage. And it's probably why catastrophic disclosure is not the right move, if we can help that. But at the same time, I don't know.
Sounds like the government's not moving in that direction. It sounds like they're moving toward the catastrophic disclosure, honestly.
Yeah, unfortunately. But, unless they think that's the only way it could happen, because everything's going to fall apart anyway, so why not just let it happen? I don't know what the thought is there. I'm not sure. Or maybe they're not thinking, because we know that it's people who, again, have ulterior motives, so they're not thinking on the whole of humanity and what's better for humanity. So, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, what can people do, and if it's happening next year in 2024, what can people do to prepare?
It's going to sound really hokey, but regular meditation. And that sounds really dumb, but start meditating every day if you can. Start to spend some time talking with people about this. So obviously, if you're listening to this, you're somebody who cares about this subject, or at least about subjects like this. So yeah, start having conversations with people that you know and love, because it's important that people aren't going into this totally blind. It's important that people are aware. So I've already had the conversation with my family. Did not go well for all of them, but I tried. My partner's aware. My mom definitely is aware. And for me, at least, I'm comforted knowing, like, well, at least my little immediate circle is going to be okay. My friends kind of are aware. Like, we've had a lot of conversations, and most of my friends are believers anyway, so it's not an issue. And I think you'll find also, if you reach out and talk to people, you'll find more people than not are like, oh yeah, there's aliens. Oh yeah, that's real. Like, oh, I'm sure the government covered it up. Like, most people are pretty accepting of those ideas. So do that. I don't know when this is going to come out, so it may be too late. But if it's not too late, call your reps, let them know how you feel about it. Even, you know what, even if it's past the UAPDA, I don't care. Call your reps anyway. Let them know how you feel, because if they understand that people really care about this topic, they're more likely to do things about it. So I'm not a believer in sitting silently by and kind of waiting for other people to figure it out. So don't do that. Make the steps that you can.
Yeah. I honestly, I think if this comes out, we just have to, we're best just circumventing government entirely. I think too late. They've had 80 years.
They've had 80 years. They didn't do it. All right. Well, then let's say if we're going to ignore that, then get in touch with your local scientists. No, I don't know. In general, though, I think, bond together with people, find comfort in things that you would normally do. So, like, for me, I take a bath almost every day. I mean, not every day, because it's a lot of water usage, but you know what I'm saying? It's a comfort thing. It's a self-care thing, whatever your self-care thing is, just keep doing that. Do not stop doing it. Don't quit your job. I mean, unless you're being told to or something, but like, I'm just saying, like, keep living your life, because it is important that you keep the human aspect of the humanity. Just because the world is changing doesn't mean that you just should immediately jump into this all without bringing in the old methods. And if you have a therapist, see a regular therapist and talk to them about it. If you don't have a regular therapist, get one. Now's the time. Family therapists are great too, if you're like a family, especially with like young kids or something, and that would be better. But yeah, just put methods into place for a support system, because that's going to be very important as time goes forward. And yeah, just do all the reading you can, keep an open mind, and trust your intuition. Really learn to trust your intuition, because that's also very important too.
And who do you think is going to drive this? NHIs or?
You're asking the wrong person. I feel like my last months have been entirely driven by forces outside of my control. So I'm not sure, but I think it could be human driven, but I think there will be an NHI aspect to it. But do I think they're going to entirely drive it? No, but I think if humans don't do it, I think they will. I have a feeling that they will do it anyway. So,
and it sounds like, I think your view was no matter what, they're probably going to show up in end of 2025, 2026, something like that.
Well, I don't know if they're going to show up. I think a disclosure is going to happen by 2025. Do I think they're going to be here? Potentially, but will they be interacting with everybody? I don't know that for a fact. I think if they're smart, they'll interact with a smaller group of the population first and kind of get people adjusted and then roll it out.
Right.
That's what I would do. I mean, I would make it very... well, even let's look at Whitley Strieber had a conversation with a guy in his hotel room in, what was that, the 90s, like 97, something like that, who was probably an NHI. Like, it's not like they can't come here, and it's not like they don't interact with people. So I don't see why that wouldn't keep happening. It's just, I think it'll probably be more and regular and then grow and grow and grow. And I think people are going to start seeing more craft in the skies too. Like, I tell everyone on the podcast, keep looking up, like, go outside, look outside, because I have a feeling there's going to be a lot more sightings over the next 2 years.
Yeah, I would just also say be careful, though, because I think it was in Passports to Magonia by Jacques Vallée. I think there were incidents back in the medieval period where they would show up and they would take people on these craft. And then when these people would come back and teach lessons to the general populace, sometimes they would get lynched, essentially. Not lynched, but that term didn't exist, but because of the fear that was associated with them. So that's the other thing that people should be mindful of when this stuff comes down, is be careful who you tell.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, because I don't want to fear monger either. So there's an aspect of balance, right? People need to use discernment. That's the term I'll use, and I have been using in public spaces. Use discernment with who you're talking to about this stuff. Like, I'm out here putting my face out here pretty much because I have to. Is that the smart thing to do? Probably not. Probably not everyone should do this. But at the same time...
I mean, right now it's pretty safe. I'm just saying.
Well, right now, but down
once
the line...
it becomes real...
because people will start going back and looking for what were people saying, and then they're going to start looking at who's been talking. So, that's going to be a thing. But yeah, just be careful, gauge the room, but don't be afraid to talk about it. Because I think for me, one of the most healing aspects of this whole thing has been finding communities of experiencers, because I'm in several, who I can talk to, who come from different experiences and backgrounds, et cetera, but learning how to deal with this stuff and realizing, oh my God, there's synchronicities. Oh my God, we have this in common. It's been more helpful than not. And I think as time goes forward, it will be more helpful than not to talk about it. Just, gauge the room first. And again, that's another reason to start looking for your communities now, because you want to start forming them around you before this all starts to happen,
The synchronicity thing, is that something that tends to happen to anybody investigating this topic, or does it tend to be an experiencer phenomena?
I think it happens to everyone. I think everyone has experienced them in their life. I just think people haven't realized it yet. I think even diehard skeptics have probably had one or two things in their life happen that they can't explain. And I would encourage them to look a little closer into that, because I think, personally, I think that's a way that other people might try to communicate with us, or other beings might try to communicate with us, or it might just be, I'm not huge on simulation theory, but maybe it's a sign that things are not what we think it. Reality is different than we think it is.
Right.
So definitely pay attention to it, but it's not just limited to experiencers. I don't think that at all.
Any final words for the audience?
As I've been saying in the last couple public spaces I've been doing, just those who are hiding this and trying to keep this under wraps, you're not going to be able to. It's already coming out. People are going to push it forward regardless, whether that's NHI or humans. People are pushing it forward. So make the right choices, be on the right side here. Humanity is going to need to change going forward in general. Even if we take out the paranormal aspect, let's just look at economy, society. Things need to change because it's not working right now. And so I personally think that we can partner with the more positive NHI and humanity and go forward into a period that's going to be better for everyone. But we just have to bond together and move towards the truth. That's all. And we can't do that unless these gatekeepers step out of the way. So I hope that they do. And I hope that I'm right and that disclosure's coming before the end of next year.
Yeah. So, Mikey Knee Pads Turner, are you listening? This is for you, Mikey Knee Pads Turner. Right. All right.
Oh man.
Yeah, I'm the guy who says the quiet parts out loud.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you, Persephone, and thank you so much for appearing on the show.
Thanks for having me. I had a blast to talk again sometime.
Yeah, I'm just sorry. I'm just sorry you lost power.
Me too. I'm a talking head right now, quite literally. So it's like very Max Headroom in the 80s, like just like
yep.
Something. Anyway.
All right, we'll talk soon.
Yep. And take care. Bye, everyone. Keep looking up.
If you enjoyed today's video, please hit like and subscribe, and also hit the notification button so you can be notified whenever I post new content. Thank you. Now, if you're enjoying the channel and you want to support it, there are several things you can do. In fact, there are 5 things you can do. The first thing you can do is just buy my books. I got plenty of books out in the market right now, and I would prefer that folks buy a book rather than giving me direct support, because they get something out of it. They get a real tangible product. The second way you can support me is by becoming a member on YouTube or becoming a patron on Patreon. And just go to either site and it'll explain everything. The third way you can support the channel is by checking out my merch site, which is here. There's plenty of stuff that you can get to support the channel. And I'd appreciate that you have it and can wear it. Not only do you help support the channel, but you also help promote the channel, and I appreciate that. The fourth way that you can support the channel, and this is really easy, is anytime you want to buy something on Amazon, literally just go to the description below and click on any link, literally any link. The channel gets a cut of that, and it costs you no extra money. You just go through the link, as I'm part of the Amazon Affiliates Club. The fifth and final way you can support the channel is through donations. Now, I don't prefer these because it's more of an expression of gratitude, but you don't really get anything out of it as a subscriber to the channel. However, if you decide to do these options, there's 2 options. There's Buy Me a Coffee, which is a separate site, and there's also, you can go through YouTube with either a super chat, super sticker, or a super thanks. Again, I prefer Buy Me a Coffee because that organization takes less money than Amazon does. But either way, I appreciate any support you are willing to give the channel. So thank you very much, and keep watching. I really appreciate it.